Now, live from Lake Washington, it's the Budweiser APBA Gold Cup. Here's your host, King 5's Tony Ventrella.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome once again to King 5's live coverage of the Seafair Gold Cup hydroplane races on Lake Washington. We're getting started a little gray and cloudy, but you know, things will clear off. It's Seafair. It's bound to be sunny by the time we're all through today. I'm Tony Ventrella. At the start-finish line today, as usual, we have a large team of reporters for our live coverage today. Let's go now to Pit Central. Lou Gellos, Mike Fitzsimmons, and 7-Eleven driver Steve Reynolds.
Thank you, Tony, and good morning, everyone. Well, in the Gold Cup, 3 heats, then the final, perhaps a consolation, all adds up to about a half an hour's worth of racing. And in 6 hours or more worth of coverage, that means a lot of the action is going to take place right here in the pits. 2 people to help us out as we cover all of that. Mike Fitzsimmons, our veteran on the hydroplane coverage for many years here
at King. Does that mean I'm getting old?
Well, yes, maybe. And Steve Reynolds, the driver, second fastest qualifying time, and you'll have our boat camera, too.
As a matter of fact, we will.
We'll have you here and out there.
It is going to be a fine day of racing as long as the wind conditions remain out of the north. The course conditions are absolutely ideal right now.
Do you know, Michael, we were looking and talking about that this morning, and even though it may be a little gray out there, the water conditions are absolutely perfect. Wind direction is right, perfect chop. It's going to be some very, very fast times today. Good racing.
You well know, though, that this course has a way of changing on you.
Doesn't it, though?
But if it stays perfect, that could provide some help for our story, really, of the day, and that's the Gold Cup and Chip Hanauer, who has won.
Whether or not he can make it 4 in a row.
That's right.
Here's the man we're talking about, Chip Hanauer. He's the only man, active driver, to have won 3 Gold Cups. He's looking for number 4. This was his last one in Tri-Cities in 1984 aboard the Atlas van lines. It's the same hull, but now it's the Miller American, and it's even faster. This was during a qualifying run for the Columbia Cup just a week ago on the Columbia River, 153. Nobody ever went that fast, but look at the price you pay when you get that speed. Oh, there's the jag to the left. That boat could have rolled over very, very easily, and it could have been all she wrote. But they repaired the boat in time to come back and defeat my colleague Steve Reynolds in the Tri-City Columbia Cup, the 20th annual running of that race. And Chip Hanauer, of course, is now looking for Gold Cup number 4. If he gets it, he'll be 1 leg up on the all-time record, 5 in a row from Garwood.
And one man who'll try to stop him is the guy with the second fastest qualifying time, our colleague Steve Reynolds.
Right here.
So lots of activity here.
Seattle Salts were creating the biggest summertime event in Seattle. The Slow-Mo 4 was creating another sensation in the hydroplane world. And no story of Seafair could be complete without the Thunderboats.
It's a mystique that the boats have. It's the noise, it's the speed.
Bash, and why not? 1951, Seattle celebrates its first century since a band of Illinois pioneers founded a settlement on the peaceful shores of Puget Sound. And there is cause for celebration. Business has never been better. Seattle has inspiring mountain views, and an availability of aircraft technology and spare aircraft engines was the perfect place for 2 boat fanatics to develop a concept that was to change the face of boat racing forever: a flying boat. The idea was not a new one. In fact, Alexander Graham Bell used the principle in 1919 to build a boat that flew over the water at unheard-of speeds of over 60 knots, a speed record that stood for more than 40 years. Powered by an aircraft fighter engine modified to crank out almost double its designed horsepower, the Slow-Mo 4, driven by Stan Sayers, roared over the crystal waters of Lake Washington at a new world speed record of 160.32 miles an hour. Residents of the sleepy community of Sheridan Beach nicknamed the hydroplane Thunderboats. Boat racing would never be the same again. That summer, Stan Sayers took the Thunderboat to the Detroit River, entered the race, and literally snatched the Gold Cup from under the noses of the Garwood cigar speedsters that had dominated the powerboat racing world for over 2 decades. In August of 1951, Seattle hosts its first Gold Cup race. Slow-Mo 5, the brand new Stan Sayers creation, quickly establishes supremacy, winning all of its heats en route to its first Gold Cup victory. Lou Fagel sets a heat record of 106 miles an hour. In those days, the Gold Cup champ won the right to host the race the following year. In 1952, Slow-Mo 4, with Stan Dollar at the helm, takes its second Gold Cup win. The most coveted prize in boat racing stays in Seattle for the next 5 years. In a qualifying run for the '55 Gold Cup, Lou Fagel was screaming down the backstretch in the Slow-Mo 5. He hits a patch of rough water, bounces once, then twice, and then 3 times. First on one sponson, then the other. Suddenly, the bow pitches up and under full throttle. 3 tons of hydroplane and driver flip completely over, but land safely. The Slow-Mo 4 is destroyed, and Lou Fagel never races again. The late Bill Muncy, the winningest driver in hydroplane history, was involved in one of the most spectacular crashes in the 1958 Gold Cup. Roaring through the south turn aboard the Miss Thriftway, Muncy loses rudder control and, unable to steer, slides in front of 5 astonished drivers. The Thriftway crashes full speed into a Coast Guard cutter, which promptly sank. Miraculously, Muncy suffers only bruises and a cut foot. He bailed out of the Thriftway 2 seconds before impact. Controversy seemed to follow the outspoken Muncy wherever he went. In the 1956 Gold Cup, Muncy was disqualified for hitting a buoy. The Miss Pepsi of Detroit was declared the winner. But Muncy was given back the cup just 80 days later when it was decided he had hit the buoy but didn't dislodge it. He had done nothing wrong under the rules. And who can forget the colorful Wild Bill Cantrell, who in the 1954 Gold Cup race goes out of control in the south turn. The Gale 5 blasts onto the banks of Lake Washington, tears up the shoreline, and comes to a rest amid a party of amazed spectators. Again, no one was hurt. 1963, the Green Dragon bursts onto the scene. The Bardol dominates Gold Cup competition, winning 3 years in a row. 1963 also marks the year Gold Cup rules started to change. The boats were now required to cover a total of 60 miles instead of 90 miles, turning the endurance test into more of a sprint. That distance was later reduced to 45 miles. And from 63 on, the race went to the city with the highest bidder, not the home waters of the previous year's winner. Seattle won the rights for this year's Gold Cup with a bid of $125,000. And the Budweiser hook up in some of the most exciting boat racing in recent history.
Okay, in the south turn, the Bud still has the inside. The pack is on the outside, and the pack shoots out. Look at that. Now the Bud shoots. Look at that boat race. The Bud on the inside, and the pack is a whisker outside.
If they stay like this, Ray, the question is going to be who can get off that final turn first and get down to this start-finish line the fastest. They'll both be standing on the nitrous. You can bet on that.
Okay, slamming into the north turn. The Budweiser on the inside. We'll see if the pack can make up room again on the outside. Oh, if the pack had the inside, could she really make up ground? But she's got the outside. She's got the longer distance, more water to cover.
Side by side, deck by deck, they battle it out, with George Henley and the pack barely coming home the winner. Chip Hanauer, the sport's winningest active driver, has a lock on the prestigious Gold Cup. He's won the last 3 years. First aboard the Atlas in 1982, with the Blue Blaster in Evansville in '83, and aboard the Jim Lucero designed turbine in '84. This year, Hanauer attempts to write himself into the record books to become the first driver to win 4...
Bardol. In the late 70s, Bill Muncy did it also in the Atlas van lines. But no one has ever won the Gold Cup 4 straight times, something that Chip Hanauer in the Miller American could do today. A year ago in the Tri-Cities, Hanauer was shooting for his 3rd straight Gold Cup win aboard the same hull as this year's Miller American, then known as Atlas Van Lines. But Jim Kropfeld in the Budweiser stole some of Chip's limelight early by cruising the 2.5-mile course at 135.4 miles per hour, a world competition record. That mark stood for 1 heat. Hanauer shattered that record by posting an incredible lap at 137.8 miles per hour. In the Gold Cup final, Mickey Remond in the Squire shop nailed a perfect start. The Atlas and Budweiser trailed. Steve Reynolds in the Tosti Asti was hosed down. Kropfeld got the blame, and the Bud was disqualified. Remond in the Squire widened his lead over the Atlas until lap 3 when engine problems forced Remond to shut down. Hanauer took command easily and breezed to a win at the Tri-Cities, his 3rd straight Gold Cup victory. Then, the Limiteds came to Lake Washington for the 7-Eleven Freedom Cup a year ago, with Hanauer looking for a 2nd straight win. But this gray day in Seattle belonged to the Budweiser. Jim Kropfeld aboard the heavier Bud plowed through choppy water to win both preliminary heats. The Atlas got a rough ride over the Lake Washington rollers. The Squire Shop had the toughest luck. In Heat 1A, Mickey Riemann just barely jumped the gun. And in 2A, his stopwatch broke. Riemann cruised the infield, thinking the start was still a minute away, while the others screamed down for the start. In the final heat, Kropfeld was first across in lane 1, with Hanauer just outside in the Atlas. Coming out of the south turn, the Turbine blasted ahead of the Bud. Hanauer built a substantial lead, but disaster struck. At the end of lap 2, the Atlas died. Kropfeld strolled by on the inside and easily took the Freedom Cup. That victory opened the door to the national championship for Bernie Little's Budweiser. In San Diego, Jim Kropfeld clinched the championship with his 6th win of the '84 circuit. So, here's how they ended.
Why the Tempest did not qualify today, and show us.
Well, basically, there's a couple reasons, but our skid fin arrangement here, we had a fairing up here this morning that when we were on the race course, in the turn, the water, if you can see, came through here and got in behind this fairing and blew the fairing off. At that point, with this blunt edge here, we had a big shovel grabbing on it, and the boat just didn't have anything in the corners. It was running about 155 down the straightaway, but we were dead in the corners.
There was something else, too. I guess you had problems with your nitrous also today.
Oh, there was no problem. It just didn't work. You know, I hit the button on the nitrous door, and there was nobody home.
You said you have a little better law than Murphy's Law. What was that, Jack?
Well, you know, Murphy says whatever can go wrong will go wrong, and Schaefer's law is Murphy was an incurable optimist.
All right, tough break for you today. Jack Schaefer and, of course, the U-17 Tempest. We're going to go over to the other side, the west side, for the story from Randy Rowland.
Well, thank you and good afternoon. With me right now, Lorenzo, doesn't like it at all. The U-33 didn't qualify today, and Lorenzo is very, very disappointed. The crew chief here to explain why. Bob Richardson, having some problems with the boat. You've tried twice this year and haven't been able to get it in the water running in a race.
We've got a few small fuel problems we should be able to work out real soon, and we hope to be in Oklahoma City and run competitively down there and do our best. The crew's got a lot of heart, and they'll be behind us all the way.
Okay, well, you've been working hard, I know it, and I wish you the best of luck down in Oklahoma City, and have fun watching the races today.
Okay, thanks, Randy.
Tony, back to you.
An identical 3900, then the Bud, then the American Speedy Printing. So quite obviously the point standings could change today. It's been getting closer for the last couple of weeks. Mike Fitzsimmons down at Penn Central.
I think you're going to see the shifting of points occur almost in every heat flight. For one, it's almost automatic that the Executon will give up the national high point lead after Heat 1A because she's not in it, and there's only 200 points to separate.
See some of the boats out today. There's the Miss 711, the second highest qualifier for the Emerald Cup. That was a couple years ago. This is the Gold Cup. Steve Reynolds taking her out. Here are the boats in Heat 1A. Steve Reynolds in the 711 with the second fastest qualifying time. The Squire Shop, we're going to keep our eye on her today. I have a feeling we're going to see something out of that boat. The Miss Budweiser out this morning, caught fire, and we'll detail what happened there in a moment. The Cellular One also already out now, and the Domino's Pizza boat just now clearing Pitt Central's area and making its way to the race course.
So those are your gladiators. It's going to be a long afternoon, and one of the gentlemen who will be watching a lot of strategy is, of course, Steve Reynolds, driver of the Miss 711. He uses the power of that turbine to help his start. This is very, very important to him. Let's take a look at the gladiators now. In Heat 1A of Gold Cup 1985. Whoa, it is a high-flying 711 with Steve Reynolds, our broadcast colleague. He's got that camera aboard his boat also. Also, we have the Domino's Pizza, the U30LS, George Johnson, coming out of retirement to drive today. In addition to that, the Squire Shop, probably one of the fastest Merlin operations with Tom Deeth, a former Gold Cup winner from 1976, on board. And, of course, the Cellular One. Mr. Consistency, Todd Yarling from Madison, Indiana, with that Allison stock operation. And the Bubble Bud, looking for a Gold Cup win with Jim Kropfeld driving. That's a good heat mix, and it has a good mixture of designs as well as power plants. We're inside the 5-minute gun. As I mentioned to you, Reynolds is very, very interested in the starting strategy, of course, Lou, and he hopes that it's going to be the Miss 711 using the power of the turbine to help him get into his start.
For a start is to make sure that I've got an open lane to run in. Strategically, I think that I'm afforded a little bit of luxury here in the fact that my equipment performs very well in every lane, whether it's lane 1, 2, 3, or all the way out into 5 or 6. So it really doesn't bother me. What I'm after is a good clean run at the clock and a good vision as to where the rest of my competitors are, so that I know that I've got them undercover, as I call it. So I know where they are and how they're making an approach to the line, and that all I want is a clean run at the clock and to hit the starting line wide open when that gun hits zero.
All 5 boats now out there, and there you get a look at 2 of them working their way down the backstretch. The 5 boats now all on the course. The only one that was really having some problems getting going is the Domino's Pizza, and it is just clearing the south turn. And we're under 2 minutes before the start of this Heat 1A for the Gold Cup. The 7-Eleven, the Squire Britannia, the Miss Budweiser. There's the 7-Eleven and Steve Reynolds. The Budweiser, Cellular One, and Domino's Pizza making up Heat 1A. The sun has finally cleared just in time for the first heat of the day.
The wind conditions still out of the north. Roller activity is rather flat, so this is just excellent water. It should favor Steve Reynolds very, very well. And also, if the Budweiser's got it sorted out, it should favor a very fast run from that Griffin.
There's Reynolds in the 7-Eleven, kind of a blue boat with the red striping and the 7-Eleven insignia. That'll help you try to identify some of these new boats, which you may be seeing for the first time.
The positioning of the boats are just exactly perfect now as we come down to this 1-minute gun. They want to be about 3/4 of the course distance down to the south end, as you see from our aerial camera there, all cutting across the inside. Now we want to remember that once they get up at that north turn, as soon as they hit that green and yellow stripe buoy, there's no lane changing allowed after that, and so they've got to make some commitments, and this is the Dyson slice period.
The north turn will be at the top of your screen when we take that aerial shot, and as we take shots like this, the north turn will be on the left side of the screen. 40 seconds to go now. Boats slowing down a bit as they get into that turn. They'll probably, they'd like to hit that turn right about the 30-second mark, which will give them a chance to get a good start as they come around the corner. Things are a little different this year. The starting line is the longest on the circuit, so as they come around the corner here, they're going to have a good straightaway of about 13 seconds once they clear the exit pin before they hit the starting line.
And Reynolds, of course, is looking for that clear channel start, Lou, on the extreme outside.
Roaring around the final turn. Tony, let us know if it's a legal start as you see them cross the start-finish line. Domino's Pizza is the last boat making the turn. Here they come. The start of Heat 1A. And Miss 7-Eleven is out in front. Steve Reynolds roaring to a huge lead off the start. The Budweiser is in 3rd place. Tough to see in the Rooster Tails who's in 2nd, but 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven has the lead, and there you see the margin of that lead. On the inside, the Squire shop, and just to the outside of the Squire in 3rd place appears to be Cellular One, the Budweiser in 4th, and Domino's Pizza 5th. But there's Steve Reynolds on his first lap. Each heat, 6 laps for each of these boats.
That's your Squire Britannia in 2nd place, the Cellular One running nice and strong, Lou, in 3rd place. Watch the drivers try to sort out just a little bit. Nobody's going to want to push. This is very early in the afternoon.
Steve Reynolds told us that here's the boat camera now. Our first look at it today. That's the entrance pin, that green and yellow buoy he just passed. That's the entrance pin into the north turn. And here he is making that turn. You'll see another one of those green and yellow buoys, which is the exit pin. And then he's coming down the straightaway, and here he comes. And he's got a pretty good lead. And in a moment, we'll get his lap time there for the first one from Tony and get an idea of just how fast Steve Reynolds is moving. He's got a huge lead now in Heat 1A. The Squire shop, Britannia, is 2nd.
And we have him unofficially at 128.5 on that first lap there, Lou, and he's doing very, very well with the Squire coming in at about 127.2.
All of these times, of course, it's speeds unofficial, but that's the best we can give you until they become official, which will be after the race. This is the south turn you're looking at as all the boats come slamming in there. Domino's Pizza is bringing up the rear, just crossing the start-finish line. 7-Eleven is nearly an entire half a lap in front of the last place boat. Steve Reynolds way out in front and on his way to taking the national points leadership, because if he wins this heat, there's the Squire shop in 2nd, 400 points for the heat victory.
And your real race now is in the 3rd and 4th position, where the Budweiser and the Cellular One are doing a lot of dicing right now. At one point, going into the south turn, the Bud overcame the Cellular, and now she's lost that advantage again. The Cellular on the inside and the Bud on the outside. There you, of course, see Steve Reynolds' view, and that's just the view he wants. Nobody in front of him.
And there's the duel that you've been talking about along the backstretch. There's Reynolds coming around the front now toward the start-finish line. Behind him in 2nd, there's Reynolds. Behind him in 2nd, you saw the Squire shop. He's got a pretty good margin at this point. And then the duel for 3rd and 4th. There's the Squire in 2nd place. Now just coming across the start-finish line. There's the distance for the leaders. And look at just coming around the turn. That's not just one boat. That is 2 boats. And here they come, the Budweiser.
And the Cellular One on the inside with the Bud on the outside.
The Budweiser not able to handle the RPM challenge of the Cellular One at this point. The ride not quite good, but now she's starting to make up some ground, and looks like she'll pull alongside just across the start line.
And now they're coming right near to the south turn. The Budweiser and Cellular One going deck to deck. Now let's see what Jim Kropfeld, who is on the left of the screen, will try to do taking the turn. He's got a longer distance to go.
Remember, all he needs is 3 boat links, and then he can come across and shut the door on the Cellular. Beginning to pinch in now into the 2-lane, into the 1.5. He's going to make Todd Yarling work for it.
Well, he's got the 3 boat lengths, but he's got to slow down, as they all do, as they take the turns. And now deck to deck coming out of the turn. This is the race for 3rd place. 7-Eleven is way out in front. The Squire Shop way out in front of these 2 boats. But this is the race for 3rd and 4th.
And it now appears the Budweiser has the beans necessary to establish a bit more of a command now in 3rd place. And I think that Todd Yarling will probably say, I'll let him have it now at this point.
7-Eleven, Steve Reynolds with the lead here in Heat 1A. There he is crossing the start-finish line. Actually, he's moving his way toward the south turn. Now crossing the start-finish line is the Squire Shop in 2nd. But Reynolds has a good ride here. There's the Squire.
Yes, he does. The speeds are staying right up in that mid-120 range for Reynolds and for the Squire Britannia. Tom Dees knows it's a long afternoon. He's willing to send back now and take that 300 points.
Squire Britannia crew chief Jim Harvey told us last night, our goal is to make it into the final heat. Well, they're not going to have a chance to catch this man, Steve Reynolds. This is the view he sees, open water in front. But they can get the 2nd place points and work their way toward getting into the final heat. There's the margin for Steve Reynolds. That's him on the left side of the screen, moving right to left. Behind him, the Squire Shop, and the other boats, as you see at the bottom of the screen, still just getting into the south turn. Reynolds and the Turbine, boy, have the Turbines taken the show so far this season.
Oh, they certainly have, and he's had a good ride going for it. Water a little bit choppy on the entrance pin to that north turn at the present time. They're having to back off just a little bit. We'll get an unofficial time on Reynolds now, but it should stay right in that mid-120s range.
Mike and Lou, Tony at start-finish. Reynolds' 3rd lap was about 1:15.5, so he has relaxed just a bit with a big lead.
And who can blame him? He's about to catch up to the Domino's Pizza, which is just entering the south turn, and that's the rooster tail you see in front of the boat camera. Domino's Pizza, the red boat on the bottom of the screen. That's the 7-Eleven at mid-screen, catching up to the, at this point, the last place boat. The Squire Shop at the top of the screen, just coming out of the north turn. There's the Budweiser, the Bubble Bud. Kropfeld with his own oxygen supply. He has a water-cooled vest that he wears to keep himself cool inside that closed cockpit.
And they have to air condition and also de-ice that bubble so he can see out. It's quite a technological advancement in this sport.
And one that a lot of other boat camps are taking a look at. But a thing that everybody's looking at today are the turbines. And this boat, the 7-Eleven, which set the Gold Cup qualifying record at over 139 miles per hour earlier in the week, only to have the other turbine boat on the circuit break it the next day, the Miller American. And we'll see that boat in the next heat. But this heat belongs to Steve Reynolds in the 7-Eleven, coming around the north turn and heading home in Heat 1A.
Reynolds completed lap 4 at 117 miles an hour.
So here's the green flag lap now for Steve, which means one more lap to go as the 7-Eleven comes down and finishes lap number 5 of the 5th of 6 times around. He has been trying inside turning strategy, outside turning strategy. That's given him quite an opportunity to work on it. As you see the Squire Britannia come down also a considerable distance and about to overtake the last place Domino's.
And there's the Budweiser on the other side of the course, working its way toward the north turn. And back to the leaders, Steve Reynolds. Coming out of the north turn, there's the exit pin as he makes his way along the log pool. And on his way to a victory here in Heat 1A.
And you notice, Lou, that the 7-Eleven is launching off a lot of groundswell activity out there. That's not a lot of air packed under the boat. It's just plain rough there.
And you get a good idea of how rough it is by watching the horizon as it tilts from left to right, up and down. That's the kind of bouncing they get out here. And sometimes some of the camera angles we have make it a little deceiving. It looks like it's calm, but the drivers told us just before they went out in Heat 1A, especially the ones that went out this morning, that the water is rough, but not too rough for 7-Eleven to come in and take the checkered flag for Heat 1A. Steve Reynolds.
The checkers out on the barge for Steve Reynolds. 7-Eleven gets 400 points for Heat 1A of Gold Cup 85.
And for the first time this season, a new national points leader. It is the 7-Eleven with these 400 points. It now surpasses the Executone, which will come up in Heat 1B. And there's the Squire shot coming in at second place. Tom DeEath gathering up the 300 points that comes with second place. Now
and this was a position, Lou, he just let him have it. If Steve wants to run that hard, it's a long afternoon. It's judicious to just allow him to take that lead and take 300 points.
Third place, the Budweiser now coming in toward the start-finish line. And the 7-Eleven with Steve Reynolds already has made its way to the finger pier, and he's getting set to get off the boat. Cellular One will pick up fourth, and the Domino's Pizza now just completing lap number 5 and heading into the south turn. There's Steve already out. Not only is he fast around the track, he's fast to the pits.
Yes, he is, definitely.
Here comes the Budweiser now. The Bubble Bud. Made a lot of changes on this boat structurally to try to enhance its performance, a performance which frankly has been quite hampered this season. This is not the same type of domineering year for the Budweiser. It's the turbines this year. But the Budweiser comes up with third place. Points crossing the start-finish line now.
As the Bud finishes right behind him, the Cellular One is coming to the finish line as well as Miss Budweiser starts to leave the course and come back to the pit area. There's the Cellular across the line. Todd Yarling is picking up now fourth place, finishing 169 points for that Madison, Indiana team. He gave the Bud a good run for the money.
Steve Reynolds now getting off the finger pier. Getting a chance to get that helmet off. He was having some troubles with that helmet, Mike. I think the visor was a little loose for him. He's afraid it was going to blow up or blow off of his helmet, and they tightened it, and now you can see he's having trouble getting the darn thing off.
And back out on the race course, of course, we have the Squire Britannia coming back to the pits, and the Domino's Pizza finishing their first heat of Unlimited Racing as he comes off the exit pin of the north turn, George Johnson. And this, by the way, is the first time a Bob Gillum boat has finished a heat of racing since 1973.
The 7-Eleven may have sustained some damage in this Heat 1A. Let's check in with Carlos, who's on the finger pier. Carlos?
So far, we've got Steve Reynolds out on the finger pier talking with the Unlimited Racing Commission and a couple of other people. He hasn't worked his way back here. We haven't heard anything about damage yet so far, Lou. Hopefully, we can grab Steve Reynolds and get him back here. Apparently, he's just pointing something. Yes, we can put the camera over to the side and take a look at the boat. Yes, he did receive some damage.
The sponson definitely damaged.
You can take a quick look at it from there. They're moving the boat over to the top of the trailer. They seem to be real concerned. I can look over and take a look at Steve while he's chatting with the people he's interviewing with, and he's not real happy about it right now.
Carlos.
We'll try to check. Yes.
Also look at the rear fin on the same side as the sponson. Looks like he took some damage there as well.
Here we go, right here. We'll talk with Steve coming over right now. Steve, what exactly happened in terms of the boat? It looks pretty bad.
It's strictly water damage. You know, Mike and I and Lou were talking about it earlier this morning on our opening shots, and the water out here in Lake Washington is worse. It is as treacherous as I've ever seen it in 6 years of running here. This is worse than the Detroit River. The wind is gusting from 3 different directions on 3 different places on the course. We got some slower boats that are a good lap behind the rest of the field, which are making just miserable holes for us to run in. And it doesn't matter, 170 or 130, we're getting beat to death.
So you go out there and have a great race in terms of jumping out real quick, doing a good job, but it's still in the end, it kind of hurts you.
Yeah, the strategy was get out in front and cruise a little bit. Well, at 145 is all the faster I went, sometimes 130. You can see the damage. That's very extensive. I don't know that we can fix that.
When will you be able to find out, do you think?
Well, we've got one more heat to run and then a draw, so we've got at best an hour at best if we draw the first of the second flight.
And it looks difficult.
It looks very difficult.
All right, thanks, Steve. Congratulations on the first heat, though.
Thanks.
All right, let's go back up to Lou up on top with Mike.
When Steve was on with you guys during the Open, he apparently had not been out yet because he had said at that point, and there we see a shot of some of the boat damage to the 7-Eleven, whose average speed was 119.5. Now, I believe we have Randy Rowland in the pits with Bud driver Jim Kropfeld. Randy.
Back it off. I'll see if I can give him a little bit of a hand here. Jim, Heat 1A, and already looks like it's rough out there. Noticed a lot of the boats taking a bouncing, and the 7-Eleven was damaged. How about the Bud?
Well, the Bud's not damaged, but it's sure taking a pounding out there. It's awful rough water. I don't know where it's coming from. I think from my pleasure boats out there on the lake, but it's rough.
I was watching you coming down the backstretch 2 different times in those rollers heading into the north turn, and I saw a lot of the bottom of the boat. That's something you don't generally like to show off.
Well, if you saw the bottom of the boat, it was because it was tipping up sideways, not because the bow was coming up. It's pounding awful hard. And I even had trouble keeping my oxygen mask on. It kept, just from the pounding, it was pulling off on me. And it's rough.
Are you going to be able to tune it up and be more competitive, do you think, in the second heat?
Well, the crew's going to go back, and we're going to talk about what we did, and then we'll make a decision after that, but I can't say at the moment.
Okay, best of luck to you the rest of the day.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Jim Kropfeld, third place in Heat 1A. Heat 1B coming up in just a couple of minutes, and as you've heard already, the story today is rough water, particularly down the back stretch.
Thank you, Randy. Well, the question will be now, too, whether the 7-Eleven can get things repaired in time, and that is certainly going to be the story between Heat 1A, the end of it, and Heat 2A.
And here are the heat points: 400 for the 7-Eleven, Squire with 300, 225 for the Bud, Cellular at 169, and Domino's at 127. Now, obviously, also...
Was it as bad out there as Steve Reynolds says it was when he was driving a boat? Apparently, he cruised out early so he could get away from all the rough water, but apparently everybody...
It was rough all over. There really wasn't any advantage to be in first place. It was just rough all over. The backstretch, the corners, there were rollers everywhere.
As far as you working where you were positioned, you just decided to stay where you were when you came out and knew what the 7-Eleven was going to take off like that and figured you were fine where you were?
Yeah, the object of this deal is to be as easy on the boat as you possibly can in these first 3 heats, and you got to log points to get to the final. Payday is until that checkered flag falls in the final heat.
You hate to see some other boat drop out of the race, but the 7-Eleven may not be able to put themselves together for the rest of the day. But that puts you in a good position in a lot of ways.
Well, they're still the Miller American, and they've got a real good bunch of guys on that crew, and I'm sure they'll do everything they can to get it back in the race.
You obviously had to be happy with the way you ran today, though.
Oh, absolutely. The Squire Britannia KZOK just is running fine, and in 1976 when I won the Gold Cup in Detroit, I finished second in Heat 1A, so we're right on the game plan.
You do have a way for that thing, don't you? All right, Congratulations on a good run today.
Hey, Carlos,
Yes,
hold him there for a second. Ask him if you would, is it worse for him being in second place and getting bounced around as opposed to being first? Is it a rougher ride for him because he's following a boat as opposed to being in the lead, or does it make any difference?
Lou was wondering, is it better for you to be in second place as opposed to being in the first place boat as far as the rough water is concerned?
Well, the water conditions normally are better if you're leading the race. But I found that, well, second place water's not bad either, but I found that it didn't make any difference. I ran on the inside lane all the way to the first turn, which would be like I would be leading the race, and the water was horrendous. There really was rollers everywhere.
And no ideas why. I mean, can you pinpoint anything?
Oh, it's typical Seattle race day. I mean, you got the logboat. People are having a good time, jumping up and down on their boats, and, you know, what can I say? Here we are in Seattle. Love that Lake Washington.
All right, thanks a lot, Tom. Back up to you, Lou.
Well, Tom DeEath gets second place, and they
step. Now, in looking a little bit closer at the boat when they had it up on the crane, Lou, it was clear that that secondary step actually isn't enough to rip a hole in the sponson. It rips a hole off the... It's like anything else. Once you get the thing patched up, you put a fast gel coat on that, a lot of hot fiberglass, you get it cleared away. You hope you don't feel it back. Then you get out there and say, well, golly, you know, will it hold?
Looks like Lauren hurt his hand since I talked to him yesterday. He's got one hand wrapped. Lauren, the Budweiser guy there that's trying to help out. Now, let's discuss the advantage perhaps for this boat, the Miss 7-Eleven, in that unlike other races, they'll have a draw after the end of...
You worry about the wood, let somebody else cut the medal, one to the other.
Excellent. That's a huge hole.
It is, but actually it's a plank that's broken away there. It isn't a big hole, and so it isn't all as bad as it might look. But the wood butchers are hard at work. The committee has decided who'll take the fiberglass, who'll rip it up. This is a boat, by the way, which has run and run and run in the 110-mile-an-hour range all day long, every day, every race, and has run real well. Andy getting last-minute instructions now from his crew chief before the American Speedy Printing pulls out. And there you see Jim Lucero, co-owner and crew chief, jumping off the Miller American as Chip Hanauer puts the visor down. The turbine is fired, and he's getting ready to pull out onto the race course. Let's see how much authority he gets up on plane. Converse to the Budweiser. Look at that. Right up there right now. Let's not talk about any problems. Let's just go. That spray comes up off the leading edge every time, kind of gets the driver wet. On a hot day, it's great to cool them off.
And in the old times, not old times, last year they were having troubles on those starts, getting the water hose down the engine. That's not the problem this time. The Miller's out, and let's look at the drivers.
And we've had the 5-minute gun fire also. Let's take a look at the boats run down. The executone, Scotty Pierce, who won in Miami. He'd love to win the Gold Cup. His mom is up here from California to visit. The old boy, Oberto, the U4 with Jerry Hopp, a Vietnam veteran, and a fellow who's moving on up to the east side. Also the U6, the American Speedy Printing with destined to be Rookie of the Year, Andy Coker from the southeastern part of our country. And here's the fast hot dog boat, the Miller American, with Chip Hanauer looking for Gold Cup number 4. And Mitch Evans and the Miss Rock, the KISW. Mitch, the son of former Gold Cupper, the late Norm Evans. It's a good field for Heat 1B.
And this, no doubt, is the boat to beat the Miller American. First question I got to ask you, does the strategy change for Chip Hanauer knowing what happened to Steve? In fact, Steve joins us now. Is that going to change the strategy for the other guys because of what happened to your boat?
Well, I don't know whether we're really out or not, Lou. The damage is very extensive. It looks like some of the major frame groups and the sponson have been blown away. I believe it happened in the north turn on about lap 2.
We saw it. We saw it. We've got the shots of it. We'll get a chance to look at that later. But right now, we got to check the Old Boy Alberto as we're under the 5-minute gun. The Old Boy Alberto, one of the boats in this heat out there making its runs.
You were talking about whether or not the Miller will try to do what Steve did and get a clear channel. I think so. Setting up for the start for Chip can present some different problems, though, to different drivers and boats. We asked Chip how the Miller American will be doing it.
Start, you know, I think with our boat, it's a quick boat. We ran 153-mile-an-hour lap in the Tri-Cities. My biggest concern is going to be not getting fouled. I think a lot of boats are going to want to try and push me around and take my lane away from me. And I think if I can just get good, clean water and get to the start line on time, I'll be okay. I don't want to make an absolutely necessarily perfect start, because then I leave some area open where the judge has to make a call. Was he over by just a little bit? So I guess in one word, I want to make a good, clean, safe start.
That's something, by the way, that Chip Hanauer has been able to do almost every boat he's ever raced since his career started in outboards. He's always had a good, clean, safe start. However, now, to seeing what a beating the 711 took, and Steve, you took outside water, and that's something that Chip usually likes to do. But seeing the beating that you took, and knowing that Scotty Pierce will try to pinch him a little bit and make him know that he's there for a moment or two, I think Chip will probably play this pretty conservatively.
Well, he really should. You know, strategically speaking, the most advantageous thing for Chip to do is to find some clean water, as he just got through describing. He should get out in front and then try and find a clean, conservative water pattern to run in, because the water is incredibly rough. Lanes 1 through 10, it doesn't really matter.
I noticed, in fact, that in each of your laps as you led and had a comfortable lead, you were testing all those lanes off all the turns, because I think you figure it's going to be a rough day here.
Well, that's exactly what I was doing. That's very observant, Michael. My opinion is there are so many large boats out on the water. You take a look out there.
Some big ones.
They are huge, and when they're moving up and down, they're creating an incredible amount of what we call parallel rollers on the back straightaway. Incredibly choppy, as rough as I have ever seen Lake Washington.
Do you suppose it might not be a bad idea? Now, look at some of those big boats. I mean, big boats we're talking about. Do you suppose, Steve, that it might not be a bad idea for portions of the log boom to remain open and actually chain the logs together and float them with buoys to dissipate water out there, so let them go?
In the interest of safety, Michael, something should be done out there. I don't know if that's a particular answer. That sounds like one alternative to me, but it's making the race conditions extremely dangerous, really.
Okay, we're coming up to the 1-minute gun. Lou, the dicing looks pretty good. Boats are in good position.
Check out that infield as everybody's going every which way to try to move in for a better position. While you gentlemen were talking, we saw 3 boats deck to deck coming into the south turn, the Old Boy Alberto. There's the 1-minute gun. And there's the new digital clock the drivers see. If there's a bad start, if somebody jumps the gun, above that executone sign, there's another digital readout which will indicate that somebody has jumped the gun. If the start is okay, it will say legal. And of course, we have the benefit of Tony Ventrello shouting, "It's okay," as they cross the start-finish line. Here they come into the north turn now. And as we get a little closer, we'll be able to identify the boats for you and which lanes they are in. And maybe, Tony, you can see better than I can, because I really can't tell who's where.
The Miller is not outside. Scott Pierce has been able to put Chip inside of him just a little bit.
Top of the screen, the executone is way outside. The blue boat looks like it's running about third. They're coming around out of the turn now. It'll take them about 13 seconds from this point to get to the start-finish line. 5 boats deck to deck for the start of Heat 1B.
And Scotty Pierce definitely pinched Chip, and Chip did not get a good start position at all. They're a little on the early side and backing down.
Oh, they've really got to back down. This is going to be close. What is it, Tony?
It is a clean start from here. They're okay.
Executone has jumped to the lead. On the inside is American Speedy Printing in second place, but here comes the Miller into second place as they come into the turn. Chip Hanauer closing things down. There's the Miller in the middle as they go into the turn, and Chip has taken the lead going into the turn.
Chip fortunately got a nice clean start in that inside lane there. He was not pinched as badly as it could have been.
And there he is, the leader, Chip Hanauer, and the Miller really cruised through the traffic. There's the executone. bouncing around a little bit. Scotty was a little concerned about that in his morning run, and he's finding out just how bouncy it is. There he is there, and right behind him, American Speedy Printing, and now he's putting some distance between he and American Speedy. The Executone and Scotty Pierce, the leader. The Miller American coming in to the north turn.
Actually, your second place boat is actually the Miss Rock. Executone slipped to third, actually fourth, and then got back to third on the back chute, gotten into that corner on awfully tight, but she's now challenging the Miss Rock for second place as they come out of the corner. Chip got a nice clean turn that time.
There's your battle for second place as Mike just described it, and there's the margin of lead for this man, Chip Hanauer in the Miller American Turbine. Does it look as rough, Steve, as it was for you?
Well, you can see right now, Lou, that he is getting up in the air. He's rebounding off some of those rollers, and as this race progresses into the later laps, it's going to get rougher for Chip.
And it looks like we lost the Miss Rock. We've lost the Miss Rock. There goes Mr. Evans. That's too bad. The Miss Rock looked pretty good there in second place for a while, but unfortunately Mitch Evans, driving his first Gold Cup, has lost before he could finish lap 1 of this 1B heat.
And that boat was looking good all through qualifying, too, putting in its best qualifying time of all time. There is a good example of how big the lead is now for the Miller American. Miller heading toward the north turn on the right side of the screen. There's a nice shot of the Miller as they come into the north turn. Second place Executone, nearly an entire backstretch behind. So the kind of lead that Steve Reynolds enjoyed over the second place Squire Shot Britannia is the same kind of lead that Miller enjoys over the Executone.
Although I got to tell you, going up into that north turn, that's probably as smooth as I've seen it all day so far. And the Miller seem to be holding very, very nicely. So does the Exec. It's this front chute that seems to have a little bit of roller launch action at the present time as the Miller comes down to finish the second lap.
And there's the Executone coming out of the north turn and heading toward the start-finish line.
Lou and Mike checking the lap speeds for the Miller American. First lap turned in 119. Lap 2 at 125.57 miles an hour for Chip Hanauer.
Hey, gentlemen, you see that Chip Hanauer took a good look at the first heat. He's driving a very, very smart race. It appears to me that Jim Lucero has got that boat dialed in very, very well for these water conditions.
Yes, he does, and Chip is able to handle some pretty good speed, and at the same time, as she goes down the back chute, you'll notice that she's holding down on the water very much better than you were, Steve.
Yes, she does. The boat is really dialed in well. That Miller American is an incredibly designed boat.
And there's the, excuse me, Steve, yes. The Executone now on the south turn, bottom of the screen. There's the Miller at the top of the screen. So an entire half a lap lead there for the Miller American. And now the Miller American coming out of the north turn with a rather huge and substantial lead. In fact, Steve, I'm afraid to say a bigger lead than what you had in your lap over the Squire.
Well, 400 points is still just 400 points.
That's right.
But, I think Scott Pearson and Chip Hanauer are both driving a very intelligent race at this point. It's a long day. We have 2 more sections to run yet before we get to the final. A finish here strategically is very, very important.
Let's try to examine. There's the Executone in second, and let's check and see who's in third. American Speedy Printing holding down third, and then well back of that is the Old Boy Alberto in fourth.
And Lou, the Old Boy Alberto and the Speedy are the 2 of the heaviest sleds out there, and both of them are having more trouble with this water, actually. The Old Boy, weighing in at very close to 7,500 pounds, is actually launching off these rollers pretty bad.
There's American Speedy Printing, the boat that now occupies third place.
Mike and Lou, Chip Hanauer continues to increase his lap speed. Lap 3 at 127.172 miles an hour.
Why would he be doing that, Steve, given the lead he has and the fact that the water was so rough?
Well, if he slows down much more than that, Lou, he's going to pound the boat to death. At this point, if he stays up around 145 or 50 miles an hour, he'll fly over the majority of that rough water.
Well, he looks to be flying now. He's got a substantial lead here in Heat 1B, and should he hold on and take this heat, which every indication suggests he will, he and Steve Reynolds in the Miss 711 will be tied for the national point standings. That's the third part of the story today. Of course, the other part is getting to the Gold Cup and the trophy that goes with it. The Miller American leading this race in Heat 1B, and he's closing in on the last place boat in this heat, which is the Old Boy Alberto. Alberto just entering the south turn, and the Miller American right behind him here. And there you see it. And right in front of the Alberto, which is right at the apex of the turn, is the third place boat, American Speedy Printing. And now you see how the Miller is gaining ground. There's the last place boats. Alberto on the left, or rather on the right, and the American Speedy Printing on the left. And here's Chip making his run at that last place boat.
It's obvious, Lou, he needs to run that fast to stay on top of that rougher water. You can see in your monitor that he's running beautifully on that stuff. If he was to slow down 10 or 15 miles an hour,
he's going right by him.
Yeah, the boat would really start pounding itself to death. That's
now, what we're talking about with these rollers, too, these boats put out a wake. It goes to that log boom and then bounces back onto the course. It doesn't just dissipate like it does on the shore side of things. It goes back out, so it makes that backside really tough. There's the American Speedy Printing in third place, and here comes Miller around that boat as well.
Steve and Lou, Chip's lap time on 4, almost identical to 3, 127 plus.
So now Miller has lapped the last 3 boats in this field and is well on its way to a victory in Heat 1B. In fact, it might be kind of tough to catch the Executone. I don't know if he's even going to try that, but the Executone has just gone out of your screen as we saw that shot of the Miller coming into the south turn.
The slower boats, as Steve mentioned, really are getting a pounding. There's a heck of a difference between that 10-mile-an-hour difference that Chip has got over the Executone. Watch the Exec now as that boat enters the north turn. That's the Rooster Tail at the top of your screen up there. A full straightaway lead ahead of Chip Hanauer, who's going to finish first place and come up on. Look at that pounding that boat takes out of the corner. No, not a bad corner for that Lucero hull. But as she comes down to the start-finish line, you'll note the boat does take a pounding. The difference in speed is just enough to really pound the driver around. Up front, though, Steve, in the cockpit, do you really feel the pounding enough to judge what it's doing to your boat?
Yes, you really can, Michael. When you start pounding around as they're pounding now, you know, the ride that you're getting is really very obvious to you up there. It really is jarring, not so much as it is behind, you know, the engine with a conventional, but definitely you can tell.
Well, there's your Executone on the front part of the straightaway, and here comes your Miller American to capture the checker at 400 points and launch into a national point lead and a tie in points for Gold Cup 85 with Mr. Reynolds.
The Miller American, the winner of Heat 1B. The 2 turbines taking the show in Heat 1, and Chip Hanauer picks up the victory. The Executone just coming out of the south turn, heading north now, has the entire, 3/4 of a lap to go to finish second. But Chip Hanauer has done his job, and now the question is, does he suffer any boat damage? And he's coming in at a kind of a crazy angle there, taking a skittish turn.
It looked to me, look, it came in a little bit hot.
Yeah.
So what he'd probably do is just go back around and circle a course.
There's the Executone, there's the Miller now heading as if it were going back out to the course. He'll probably just turn around and come back. He's got to keep that boat up, too.
Well, he'll probably have to go all the way around the race course again. The referee warned us in the beginning, do not circle around in this area, but make a complete loop if you can't get back to the pits.
And the reason for that is there's other racing going on, of course. You'd be presenting yourself as a hazard.
And here comes the Executone to take second place. There are 2 other boats out there as well, along with the Executone. And Scotty Pierce will get 300 points that go with second place in Heat 1B.
Very smart race for Scott Pierce.
And this is the most consistent ride on the circuit this year. And once again finishes second, gets 300 points, still in the hunt.
That was a very intelligent run by Scott. His crew gives the Executone, you know, a beautiful preparation treatment before he goes out. They have been very consistent.
And here's the battle for the last 2 spots. This could be closer than the race we saw for first.
I think we've got a race shaping up here.
American Speedy Printing coming out of the turn now. Alberto right behind it, trying to gain ground and try to pick up the 3rd place points. Here's our race at least. But it looks like American Speedy has the distance to come across for 3rd place, and Alberto will get 4th. And keep in mind the KISW Miss Rock went dead in lap number 1. There's the American Speedy Printing taking 3rd. Alberto trying to close ground. And there's the Alberto. And oh boy, we'll pick up 4th place.
I'll tell you, Jerry Hopp a couple of times has caught Andy Coker napping on the last lap and a couple of other stops, and that's sort of a personal battle the 2 of those guys have.
And that started back in Madison, Indiana. You know, Jerry just clipped him by about 1 second at the finish line to move up 1 spot in the Governor's.
We were mentioning the Executone and what an intelligent ride Scotty had there. He also got Chip to fall for something coming down into the corner there. Chip really wanted outside water. Scotty stayed with him. Chip keyed on him, and Scotty would not let him outside once they got to the no lane change buoy and forced him to start inside of him.
Gentlemen, that's racing.
That's right. Not only that, but he'd love to do that to you too, Reynolds.
And nevertheless, because of that lane jockeying, the Miller still was able to blast through and take the lead in the south turn. And now the Miller American cruising into the pits, having to take that extra lap because he just came into the pits a little bit too hot the first time around. And there's the Miller as it approaches Stan Sayers' pits. be on the east side, and he's waving his fist to the crowd as he comes by. He's got the victory in Heat 1B.
He may have another problem, gentlemen. I don't think that his fuel shutoff is working. With a turbine engine, you don't have an ignition system like you do in a piston engine. The only way to shut that boat off is to take the fuel away.
And so now the first place boats in both heats have problems, which are really going to make things interesting here.
It looks like he's got it shut down now.
He got it now, I think.
Yeah, he unfortunately didn't come in too. He came in too hot the last time around, but he couldn't shut it off. So this time it looked like he was going to have the same kind of a problem. But apparently he did find the answer, and they'll have to bring him in on the end of the rope now. So it'll be a moment before we'll get a chance to talk with the winner of Heat 1B.
Mike and Lou, Chip was fairly consistent. In fact, very consistent for all 6 laps, starting out at 119 miles an hour. That's average speed the first lap. Then 125, 2 127s, a 122, and 124. And we mentioned with Steve listening that is average speed. Hard to guess what top speed would be on the straightaways. What would you guess, Steve?
He's still going. He's not shut down.
Well, I think he got it. What he did, if he found the solenoid working where he can shut the fuel off, he'll attempt to bring it back in again. But
and he is circling.
That's what he's doing.
He's heading toward the pits now.
Yeah, to answer your question, Tony, I think he was probably looking at speeds maybe down the front straightaway and back straightaway on the first lap, but probably somewhere around 150, maybe 160. I don't think that he came down much lower than 145 or 50 during the entire race, really.
Well, he's given up now coming out of the cockpit, and they'll have to tow him in the rest of the way. In the meantime, the Executone is at its moorage, and the oh boy Alberto is there too. So while we're waiting for the Miller to get in to talk to Chip, let's head down to the Executone and driver Scott Pierce.
All right. Thank you very much, Lou. We've got Scott Pierce coming in just a moment here. He just finished the race, was debriefing a little bit and talking about the attitude of the boat during the race. Here's Scott Pierce. Congratulations on your second place finish and 300 points in 1B.
Well, that's what we intended to do. We didn't see any sense in running the final heat in the first heat, so we're just taking it easy, saving our stuff for the final, and we'll go like Jack the Bear then.
Okay, got a couple of chances from different angles to see you and see the attitude of the boat. It looked like you were staying down the water pretty good, but getting an awfully rough ride. Do you think it's going to get worse as the afternoon goes along with those rollers off the back?
Yeah, it's only going to get worse. We're going to make some changes and try to get the boat going through it easier, but for right now, we just have to keep adjusting, and that's what we're doing to try to find out what we want for the final heat.
What were you able to open it up to going down the back stretch there?
I never really ran over like 150 miles an hour. I was just taking it real easy.
Consistency's been the name of the game for you guys all year, and it doesn't sound like you're deviating a bit from your game plan.
I don't think we can afford to. That was a long time out there. I felt like I was out there for days.
Okay, we'll see you in heat number 2.
Hey, Randy.
Thank you much.
Randy,
yes, Lou?
Do you still got him there?
Yes, I do. Still have Scott.
Ask him about the start. He was able to get that outside lane and force the Miller inside.
That's right. Scott, your start set you up pretty good. You got a little jump. You got the Miller forced inside. Part of the strategy, or is that just the way she sized up?
I just want Chip to think about it for a while to see what's going to come for the final. You know, he's got an incredibly fast boat, and he's a very, very good driver. So, a guy with a piston boat, we're gonna have to play some games. That's the only way we have the only chance we have really to beat him.
If they don't break, you wind up looking up the back end of a turbine quite a bit, don't you?
It sure seems that way. You know, before you could always depend on them to break, but they have really got their act together and they're running super, and that's why we'll have a turbine next year.
Okay, Scott Pierce of Edmonds. Good luck to you in heat number 2.
Thank you much.
Lou, back to you.
Thank you, Randy. And driver Scott Pierce in the Executone.
Very, very consistent now. We at the 7-Eleven had not had an engine failure all year long. The Miller people have been rather fortunate, really. They had only 2 failures, and they were actually a rear turbine wheel failure. Outside of that, they've been very, very consistent.
Okay, let's take a look at the results of Heat 1A, and or 1B rather, and we'll keep our eye on Chip as he's getting close to the finger pier, and Carlos will be able to
see if we can grab him. We've got somebody. All right, Chip. We'll have Chip right here if we can bring him just a little closer to us. Congratulations on Heat 1B, but tell me, how was it out there? Everybody else is complaining about the water. I imagine it's the same with you.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's really rough. It's typical Seattle, and it just beats the heck out of the boat, as the 7-Eleven shows.
Tell me about, you were running pretty fast. They thought maybe you were running maybe too fast. They were worried because you were so far in front. Why push the boat?
Well, so we didn't do the same thing as 7-Eleven did. If I go too slow, the boat pounds itself because it doesn't have enough air underneath of it. We need enough air that I can glide over the top of it. If I slow down, it just hits every little hole and just beats the heck out of the boat.
Because of the rollers and everything, and your boat as light as it is, do you have an advantage?
I don't know. I'll tell you about maybe 5 o'clock today.
All right. Tell me, you had some problems shutting it off coming back in. I thought maybe you were going to take a victory lap or something. What was that all about?
Yeah, I don't know. We had a fuel valve stick on us, so Charlie said he knows what happened. Fix it.
You don't look too excited for winning this first heat.
This is just rehearsal. The final heat's what matters.
All right,
Carlos, being out in front.
Carlos,
yes.
Ask him about the start. Maybe that's why he's not too happy. Scotty Pierce was able to pinch him inside.
Scotty Pierce was able to pinch you inside in the start. Are you not happy about your start in that way?
They were all so early that I couldn't see the clock and I couldn't see the start buoy, so I had no idea where I was. So I just wanted to be real conservative. Yeah, I think Scott moved in on everybody a little bit, kind of crowded everybody, but I tried to hold him out and give the guys inside of me room, so I think it worked out.
Are you satisfied with the heat?
Yeah, 400 points, and the thing came back in one piece, so yeah, I guess we're satisfied.
You were checking it out a little bit, though, as they put it back on the trailer. Were you looking for anything in particular?
Not really. I just have to worry about every little thing on it and just make sure it's all in one piece, because it's got to get me through the day.
All right, congratulations, winner of Heat 1A, 1B rather. All right, thank you very much, Chip. Back up to you, Lou.
Thank you, Carlos. So Chip Hanauer and Steve Reynolds, the two turbine boats, pick up the laurels here in Heat 1, and here's what the overall points look like now after Heat 1 of the 1985 APBA Gold Cup. The Miller American and the Miss 711 leading the way with 400 points. Right behind them, the Executone and the Squire Shop with 300 points. Then the Budweiser and American Speedy Printing tied with 225. The Cellular One and Oh Boy Alberto at 169. Domino's Pizza picked up 127. The Miss Rock KSW did not finish.
And here's the shifting around now. Executone and 711. Executone's back on top.
Right. He did find out about the draws for Heat 2A and 2B, and he knows he's got a little more time to work with now. So tell me what you think.
Well, all that's done is give us some time. We've still drawn, 2 or 3 excellent boats that are not going to make that run easy. Now, of course, we have to be very careful that the repairs are going to be strong enough for us to go the balance of the day. And with the water conditions getting worse, we've got some major damage here.
Let's see if we can slip back a little bit and have the camera pan over to the repairs that they've been working on right there. Maybe you can talk a little bit of how bad maybe it is or whatever.
Well, what happened, Carlos, is that the outside runner that you see there, that the area that's naked right now of skin, what happened is that came off, I think, at the start of lap 3. Then what happened is the water got inside there. It just hydraulic the rest of the sponson away. The basic framework of the sponson was all torn out, really. The primary running surface was just literally hanging there by screws and splinters.
What's amazing is everybody's working frantically here. And what people don't know is that you've got people from the Budweiser here, the Miller camp. Lucero was down here trying to help out. Bernie Little was down here trying to help out. That's not unusual, though, is it?
No, it isn't. Yeah, in racing circles, when there's one good competitor, any competitor really, that's down on their luck and needs some help to make the race, it's amazing how the good-naturedness and the competitiveness, get put aside. The guys come over and pitch in as well as they can. I mean, Budweiser here. There's Larry Gillespie up there from Chuck Hickling's boat. Fred Doobie up there is from Dave Herrensberger's cabinet shop. There's John Walter's brother down there working on the boat. We've got more help than we need, than we really can use, and these guys are all experts. And I'll tell you, if this boat can make it, if we've got enough time, it'll be there.
Hey, Carlos.
Frantically, yes, Lou, go ahead.
Carlos, just from where we sit, it doesn't look any differently, despite all that help, than it did when we checked in about a half an hour ago. Have they really accomplished anything yet?
Do you feel that they've really accomplished anything in that half-hour period of time? Lou seems to think there's not much done since then, even though it's looked like they maybe done some work on it.
Well, they've got the basic framework stuck in there. I mean, all they're doing is the rough carpentry right at the moment. When it gets back to bolting the skins on, it's still going to be very, very close as to whether we make it or not.
All right, that's the bottom line, I guess. You're just going to have to wait, right?
End of report.
All right, thank you very much. Good luck, Steve. I hope it happens. All right, we'll go back up to Lou up on top in Pit Central. Lou?
Thank you, Carlos. Now, of course, he has